be able to welcome this younger generation, and the fact that they are in the masjid is a great sign, because there's so many things they could be doing, but they rather be in the masjid and be around Muslims. So how do we get through to these adults, and especially our younger generation that following in the footsteps of the adults that don't have the patience or the heart for younger generation?
Jazakallah khair. That's a very good question. I think see a lot of the young guys nodding their heads like someone finally is championing their cause. They have an advocate, auntie, mashallah, khaltu. Yeah, I don't think there's any one secret recipe. I do think there's some things from the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we can learn. One of the ayahs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Abu Bakr, or to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا أَلَّا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and forgive and pardon, because wouldn't you love that Allah forgave you? So one of the things that we learn from the Quranic personality, the personality of Ahlul Quran, is that they're very forgiving people. And some of the best Quran teachers that I've ever had in my life were like the most smiling, forgiving people ever. And the reason why that's such an amazing characteristic is because Allah then forgives that person for all the mistakes that they make, because they're forgiving, inshallah. So when you see youngsters at the masjid making a mistake, or maybe outside the masjid, not forgiving them is not a sign of strength, right? It actually takes strength to forgive somebody. So if you want to be a strong figure in their life and you want to show strength, then forgive the young people when they make mistakes, right? I once had a father come to me and say, my son is a munafiq. Khalas, like he's munafiq. And I was like, subhanallah. Like I didn't know what to say. I was just like, okay, like, I'm glad your son is going to be roommates with like Pharaoh, I guess. But anyway, so I was like, okay, why do you, I was like, explain to me why your son is a munafiq. I was like, I hope you didn't name him munafiq. So like, hey munafiq, like. So he said, my son, he doesn't pray Fajr and Isha in the masjid. And I was like, okay. And I know where he's going, because there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said that the most difficult prayers for the munafiqeen are which ones? Fajr and Isha in the masjid. So he added 1 + 1 = 2, right? He just did like Islamic arithmetic. He's like, hadith says this, my son is this, he must be this, right? So I asked the uncle, I was like, uncle, can I ask you a question? He's like, yeah. I was like, how old are you? He's like 51. And I was like, how old were you when you started praying Fajr and Isha in the masjid? He's like 48. I was like, how old's your son? He's like 14. Dude can't even drive yet. Like you're yelling, we're not going to masjid, dude. I said, uncle? He said, yeah. I said, your son has 34 more years before you can call him munafiq. We can't have expectations for our young people to do things that we didn't start doing until yesterday. It's just not right. Like if you didn't start praying or reading Quran until like you were like in your late 30s, don't expect your 12-year-old kid to be like Hafiz, man. Give them some time to grow and give them space, and tell them how you used to be when you were a kid and you used to struggle. Now if you were like a sheikh family, and then I feel bad for that kid. But anyways, the point is that be lenient with them, right? And don't just go around throwing labels like munafiq and failure and this and that. Those words are very damaging. Words are extremely hurtful. When you say these things to people, it hurts them. The Prophet ﷺ, one time someone said something so hurtful to him that only Allah could console him. You know what they said to him? So when you get hurt, who do you go to? When someone hurts your feelings, who do you go to? You might go to your mom, your dad. You might go to your friends, right? If you're married, you might go to your spouse. Someone called the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ majnoon. You guys know what that means? It means like insane. It doesn't just mean crazy, right? Like, dude, you're crazy, dude. Like, no, it doesn't mean that. It means like the person's like mentally, they are unstable. They're insane. They can't control their mental state. Okay? It's actually a very hurtful thing to say about somebody, right? Because it's a very difficult situation to be in. So, what did Allah tell the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Surah Qalam? He said, "Ma anta bi ni'mati rabbika bi majnoon." Allah had to console the Prophet ﷺ and say, I promise you, don't listen to what they're saying. You're not crazy. Words can hurt people, dude. If that insult hurt the Prophet ﷺ so much that only Allah had to console him, imagine like the words you can say to people, how much that can hurt people. So with young people, number one, forgive them. Number two, give them time. And number three is like, don't be so overly critical when they make mistakes. When they make mistakes, just remind them and use it as a learning opportunity. And praise them when they do good things. Praise them when they do good things. Don't just always be picking on people. You know, as Muslims, we have this, Muslim parents, we have this tendency to downplay good and to exaggerate bad. So we tell like young people like, oh my God, you did this, you're horrible, you're this. And the kid's like, I know, but I read some Quran today. It's like, yeah, well you should, you failure. That's not nice. We should praise people, make them feel good. وَبَشِّرُ, right? وَبَشِّرُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Give people good news when they do good things. If a young person is in the masjid for even 2 minutes, if they only prayed Isha and didn't pray Tarawih, say, listen, that's amazing, you prayed Isha in the masjid, that's great. You're not a munafiq, right? You're not a munafiq anymore. But and then you can give them some criticism, constructive criticism, right? Oh, maybe tomorrow try to pray the first 2 rak'ah, inshallah. See if you can do that for a week, okay? And give them some of that growth. The last thing I'll say is this. I have this phrase that I teach people because I train like imams and youth directors with Sheikh Abdel Nasser Jangda, my teacher at Qalam Institute in Dallas. I say lunches over lectures. Lunches impact people much more than lectures. You can tell that I'm hungry right now, right? But lunches over lectures. Why? Because when you're lecturing somebody, like they don't feel like you care for them. But when you take them out to lunch and you pay for their meal, don't take them out to lunch and ask them to pay for your meal. That ruins the whole experiment, right? When you take them out to lunch and you pay for their meal and you say, order whatever you want, and then you pay and you let them eat and you talk about sports and life and school and parents and stuff like that. And then at the end, at the very, very end, right? So you've been out for like an hour and a half. You take 1 minute and you say, listen, because I love you, because I'm worried for you, can I give you a little bit of advice? You know, we've had this awesome meal together. Can I just give you one piece of nasiha? The person will say, they'll know that you care for them because you just took them out, you paid for their meal, you listened to them, you talked to them, and now you're only asking for 60 seconds as opposed to being like lecturing them for an hour and then saying, okay, tell me what you think in 60 seconds. That's not going to work. Okay? So that's my advice, Khaltu, is to be, Jazakumullah khair. Yeah. Barakallah feekum. That's my advice. Number one is to forgive and pardon. Number two is don't have such high expectations at an early age. And number three is lunches over lectures, inshallah. So did you have a question? I think you were raising your hand.
Yeah, it was, so how do you respond to people like, you know, they'll pray 5 times a day, especially like during Ramadan, but you know, at night or whatever, you know, they go back to doing like, you know, say really like bad things, like major things. You know?
So people who like they pray 5 times a day and like Ramadan they're doing good, and then like when they're outside they have like downtimes like at night or something. And they do wrong things. Yeah, I mean that to be honest with you it's just even more proof of the Prophet Muhammad's hadith that person has to really focus on how to clean their heart. And you know the Prophet he gave us this phrase, interesting phrase, right? The sweetness of Iman. Okay, the sweetness of Iman. So he's basically saying that Iman, it can taste sweet. You know, like when you're running, there's a certain point called runner's high, when you break this barrier and you just want to keep going, right? Or playing basketball, you like hoop 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row, you're like, I can keep going. So Iman has that sweetness, Jazakumullah khairan. Iman has that sweetness, and my experiences taught me that Iman tastes sweet when you're able to tell yourself no about committing a sin. So that person should set goals for themselves. Let's say that they commit sins from like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., right? They're just committing sins left and right, whatever, different kind of sins. Don't then hold yourself back till 1:10 or 1:15. Like fight it for 15 minutes and then go for it, okay? Then after a week of that, fight it for half an hour, then an hour. Basically slowly work on it, right? Take small steps, inshallah. It's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. And if you notice that there's one of your friends or somebody that you're close to, or it's you, another good thing is suhbah. Have really good suhbah. Remember we talked about having good friends. When you're with good people, you become like good people. When you're with good people, you start to take relationship or habits from them, right? So if someone notices that they're praying in the masjid, because why? Because when you're here, you feel so religious because you're with everybody and you're praying together. But then you might go home alone, or you might go, not like the movie, but you might go home alone, And then you might go out with people that are not good for you, right? And you change your environment. You're no longer with good people. So even if you're going to go out to eat at 2 in the morning for suhoor or something, make sure it's with good people. Right? You can do fun things, just do it with the right people. Inshallah.
But some people get like, you know, uncomfortable like when you tell them like, oh, like, you know, you really shouldn't be doing this, and they kind of like act awkward about it, and then like they know they're doing something wrong, but they don't want to give it up. So like it's hard for you to, you know, try to be able to talk to them and convince them otherwise without like ruining that relationship you may have with them.
Yeah, giving nasiha is tough. There's an art to giving nasiha, you know? Like number 1 is never do it in public. Number 2 is make sure you know the person. One of the biggest things that pushes people away is like the first time you meet them, you give them advice, you know? Or you don't know them that well. So like, there's a lot of different things about giving nasiha. And really, if you know that person, there might be different like recipes that you might have to figure out. So it might be taking them out to lunch, it might be hooping with them, it might be whatever, right? But I've always found personally, a good way to handle that sort of tension is to just tell the person straight up, look, I'm only telling you this because I actually care for you as a friend, because you're my brother. I wouldn't tell you if I didn't care. Right? If I don't care about you, I'm not going to tell you. But I care for you, so I want to just tell you, like, I hope, inshallah, that you can work on, and I'm here for you. You know, how can I help you fix this? You know,